The day I got my license, I went to the hospital and had my corneas removed. In my past life, everything started when my boyfriend's childhood friend, Lila, stole my car on the first day of school. She ran red lights, killed a pregnant woman and an old man, then fled. But my classmates blamed me. When the police came, I swore Lila had been the one driving. She collapsed into Ethan's arms, crocodile tears glistening in her eyes. "Nora, why would you frame me?" she cried. Then Ethan produced the dashcam footage, my face behind the wheel, still insisting it wasn't me. He sneered as the victim's family watched. One of them stabbed me, and everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was back, reborn, the day before it all happened. "Welcome to Harborview, everyone." Lila's sweet, cooing voice echoed through the classroom. "Since I'm a local, I thought I'd play the good host and take you all to the mall tomorrow to pick up some souvenirs. My treat, a little welcome gift from me to you." The familiar words sent a tremor through me. I was back. The classroom erupted in praise. "Wow, Lila, you're seriously the best. Harborview's little princess. Lila, there are so many of us, that's going to cost a fortune." She just laughed, a picture of effortless generosity. "Don't worry about it. You've all come so far, it's the least I can do." Suddenly, all eyes turned to me. "Nora, the roster says you're from Harborview too, right?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Yeah. Welcome to our city." Lila's hand shot out, her fingers wrapping around my arm. "Nora, my car won't fit everyone. You just got your license, didn't you? Could I please borrow your car?" It was like being doused in ice water. My body froze as the memory of her request from my past life came flooding back. That was how it had started. She'd borrowed my car, blown through 18 red lights, and ended 2 lives. Then my entire class, my entire world, had turned on me, branding me a murderer. When the police came, I had screamed my innocence, but Lila's crocodile tears in Ethan's arms were more convincing. He had slapped me, shown the dashcam footage and sealed my fate before I even understood the betrayal. The victim's family delivered their brutal justice. The memory cut through me like a phantom pain. Before I could react, my purse was snatched from my hands. Ethan, my boyfriend, was already digging through it. He pulled out my car keys and tossed them to Lila. "Go ahead, Lila. Take it." The sight snapped me out of my trance. I lunged forward, snatching my bag and keys back. "Sorry," I said coldly. "I need my car tomorrow. You'll have to ask someone else." Ethan's face darkened instantly. "What could you possibly need it for, Nora? Just admit you don't want to lend it to her." "You're right," I said evenly. "I don't want to." "So what?" Lila's eyes welled up, a perfect picture of wounded innocence. "Nora, I don't understand why you hate me so much. I just wanted to do something nice for our new classmates. Why are you always targeting me?" Refusing to lend her my car was now targeting her. My classmates, of course, sided with her. "Come on, Nora, don't be so cold. Yeah, it's just one day. Why are you trying to hurt her feelings? She's never done anything to you." Then Ethan shoved me hard. "Nora, can you drop the spoiled princess act for 1 second? It's the first day of school and you're already bullying Lila." I stumbled back, my head cracking against a desk. Pain exploded in my skull. In my past life, his words would have broken me, made me question myself, feel guilty. But this time, all I felt was hatred. I forced myself to my feet, ignoring the pain, and swung my hand across his face. The sharp crack echoed in the stunned classroom. "You put your hands on me for her? Have you forgotten who pays for your tuition, Ethan? Who pays for your life, you ungrateful parasite?" My voice shook with rage. "We're done. Go protect your precious little sister." The word breakup seemed to stun him. His face went pale. "Nora, what are you talking about? Stop being dramatic. Lila is my sister, and you're supposed to be her future sister-in-law. It's only natural for you to look out for her. I was just trying to help you fit into my family." A cruel smile twisted my lips. "Do you really think I'm that stupid? Ethan, we are over. I don't need your family, and I don't need to take care of whatever the hell she is to you." With that, I grabbed my bag and walked out. His furious voice followed me down the hall. "You and your damn princess attitude. Who else would ever want you? All you know how to do is throw your dirty money around to humiliate people. You're arrogant, you'll die alone." I couldn't help but laugh. He never felt humiliated swiping the supplementary card I gave him, or when he was happily accepting gifts worth thousands. I pulled out my phone. First, I canceled the supplementary card. Then I called a friend at the bank and asked her to print every single transaction he had ever made. If he felt humiliated by my money, fine, he could pay back every last cent of it. That night, I parked my car safely in the underground garage and let out a long breath of relief. Lila couldn't get to it now. But just as I was getting ready for bed, the hospital called. "Miss Reed, we have the results of your eye exam." I had nearly forgotten. My vision had been blurry for weeks. "Miss Reed, you have severe corneal detachment and retinal damage. The corneas will need to be surgically removed." The doctor's words hit me like a blow. "We'll do everything we can to get you on the donor list, but the surgery needs to happen soon. The longer you wait, the harder it will be." That night, I didn't sleep a wink. By morning, my car was gone. Stolen. A chilling premonition crept over me. My hands shaking, I called the hospital. "I've made my decision. Let's do the surgery today. I don't want to wait." Within hours, I was on the operating table. As the anesthetic spread, a strange calm settled over me. I looked toward the surgical camera and let a small, secret smile touch my lips. 5 hours later, I woke to a world of absolute darkness. Panic stabbed at me until my mother's voice broke through. "Sweetheart, how are you feeling?" Relief washed through me. "I'm okay, Mom. It's just strange not being able to see." She hugged me tightly. "It's going to be all right. In 3 months, you'll have the transplant and everything will go back to normal." But fate had other plans. That evening, when I was wheeled outside for some fresh air, the peace shattered. "Nora, what are you doing here? You're a fugitive. The police were looking for you." Ethan's voice, furious, came from the darkness. Then Lila's voice, dripping with false pity, "Nora, please don't make this worse. 3 people are dead. If you confess, we'll all plead for leniency for you." Hands grabbed me, dragging me to the ground. "You ran my wife down." A man roared. "She was pregnant, you destroyed my family." I screamed, "I've been in the hospital all day. My car was stolen." But the mob didn't care. Ethan pointed at me. "She bragged she'd run red lights for fun." I tried to stop her. She wouldn't listen. The grieving husband's hands closed around my throat. "Because you're rich, you think you can play God with our lives? I want an eye for an eye." The wail of sirens pierced the chaos. Police swarmed the scene. But when they pulled him off, I felt the cold bite of handcuffs on my wrists. "Miss Reed," the officer said coldly, "your car was found at your residence. Dashcam and traffic footage show you behind the wheel. We have dozens of eyewitnesses." I shook my head wildly. "That's impossible. It wasn't me." Then someone ripped away the gauze over my eyes. Gasps echoed through the crowd. "Oh my God. She doesn't even have eyes." The gasp that spread through the crowd was like a physical wave, crashing against me and leaving silence in its wake. I sat there, restrained, blind, my world reduced to darkness and voices. The weight of their stares pressed down on me even harder than the handcuffs. "She has no eyes," someone whispered, their voice trembling. Another voice, colder, snapped back. "Do not let her trick you. It is all a show. These rich brats will do anything to escape punishment." The husband who had tried to strangle me cursed, but I could hear the uncertainty creeping into his tone. Even his grief was no match for what they had just seen. "Officer," my mother's frantic voice broke through. "My daughter was in surgery all day. She could not have been driving. Look at the hospital records." The police officer hesitated. Papers shuffled, radios crackled. Somewhere in the distance, Lila's sweet sobs painted a picture of innocence. "She is lying. I saw her get into that car this morning," Lila cried. "She has hated me since we were children, and now she is dragging all of us down with her. Do not listen to her." My mother shouted, desperation cracking her voice. "The hospital can prove Nora was here." The officer gave a command, and I was hauled upright. "Take her in. We will sort it out at the station." I wanted to scream, to fight, but my body was weak, my vision gone. I could only stumble forward as they dragged me toward the waiting car. The station smelled of stale coffee and despair. Every step echoed in my ears as I was guided into a cold room and shoved into a chair. "Miss Reed," the officer began, his voice clipped and impatient, "your vehicle was used in a hit-and-run this morning. Traffic cameras clearly show you behind the wheel. 3 people are dead. Why should we believe you were not driving?" I gripped the edge of the metal table, my fingers trembling. "Because I was in surgery. Ask the hospital. I was unconscious for hours." He slammed his hand down. "Enough with the excuses. We have footage of you laughing as you ran those lights. The victims' families want justice, and they will have it." My chest tightened. How could there be footage? I had not been there. Unless someone had made sure there would be. Hours dragged by. I was left alone in the interrogation room, the air suffocating, my thoughts running in circles. I could hear faint voices through the wall, detectives speaking to Ethan and Lila. She told me she would do it, Ethan's voice said, heavy with false regret. She wanted to show off. I begged her not to. But she never listened to anyone. Then Lila's voice, soft and trembling. I love her like a sister, I really do. But she has always hated me. Maybe she thought if she scared everyone enough, they would stop praising me. Their lies twisted together like a rope tightening around my neck. By the time they brought me back to a cell, my hands were numb from clenching my fists. I was not going to beg. Not anymore. 3 days passed before I was released on bail. My family's lawyers fought tooth and nail, dragging every hospital record into the light. For now, it was enough to keep me from being locked away forever. But the damage was done. News outlets had already painted me as the reckless rich girl who killed 3 people for fun. Reporters hounded me when I stepped outside. Strangers spat at me. And worst of all, my so-called classmates, people who had once smiled at me, shared posts online about how they always knew I was rotten. Through it all, Ethan and Lila played their roles perfectly. The grieving brother and the heartbroken friend. They visited the families of the victims, crying on their doorsteps, begging them not to let anger consume them. Every appearance only made me look worse. On the 4th night, lying in my darkened room, I remembered the final moments of my past life. The stab of the knife, the rush of blood, the bitter laughter of betrayal. It had all started with my car. And once again, it had been stolen. I pressed my palms against my empty eyes. Even in this new life, fate was repeating itself. Unless I broke the cycle. I began with Ethan. The next day, I called the bank again and demanded the full printout of his spending history. The file was delivered in a thick envelope. I could not see the pages, but my mother read them aloud to me. Tens of thousands in restaurants, hotels, jewelry. All charged to my card. Every single cent that had come from me, dressed up as generosity on his part. Send it all to the press, I told my mother flatly. Every page. Let the world see what kind of man he is. But Nora. No buts. If they want to call me arrogant, fine. Let them choke on the truth. The scandal broke within hours. Headlines screamed of Ethan Clark, the noble boyfriend of Harborview's princess, who had been secretly draining her fortune for years. Photos of him flashing luxury watches, vacations with friends, even receipts for hotel stays with names that were not mine. His perfect mask shattered. I heard the fury in his voice when he called me from an unknown number. You think this will save you? You think anyone cares if I spent your money? You killed 3 people, Nora. No scandal will wash that away. My lips curled into a bitter smile. I will not go down alone, Ethan. If I burn, you will burn with me. He cursed, but the line went dead. Lila was next. I began digging, even from the confines of my house. My lawyers and a few loyal friends gathered evidence quietly. Bank transfers, whispered rumors, connections between her family and local officials. Piece by piece, a picture formed. She was not the innocent princess she pretended to be. She was a spider, weaving webs to catch anyone who got too close. And I was done being her prey. 2 weeks later, the families of the victims filed an official case against me. I was to stand trial. The courtroom was packed. The air buzzed with anger, pity, and morbid curiosity. The prosecutor painted me as a spoiled heiress who had never faced consequences. They showed the dashcam footage again, my face, my hands gripping the wheel, my laughter echoing. I sat silently, my sightless eyes hidden behind dark glasses. I could feel the hatred pressing in from every direction. When it was my lawyer's turn, he spoke clearly. Ladies and gentlemen, my client had her corneas surgically removed on the day of this accident. She was under anesthesia for 5 hours. It is medically impossible for her to have been driving. Gasps rippled through the room. Doctors were called to the stand, their testimonies unwavering. Records confirmed every detail. But the prosecution smiled. Even if she did not drive, whose car was it? Whose face is in the footage? Who else but Miss Reed could it be? The judge leaned forward. Miss Reed, do you have any explanation for this footage? My throat tightened. For a moment, I almost said no. Almost gave up. But then, a spark of fury ignited in me. Yes, Your Honor, I said, my voice steady. The footage is fabricated. And I will prove it. Gasps echoed again. The courtroom trembled with murmurs. And in that moment, I knew, this was only the beginning. The courtroom emptied slowly, like a tide pulling back. Shoes scuffed against tile, whispers trailed into the hall, and somewhere a reporter rehearsed a line that would make me sound monstrous or pitiable depending on how the wind blew that hour. I stayed seated until the bailiff touched my shoulder and said it was time. I rose, hands on the rail, and counted the steps the way my physical therapist had taught me. Left foot. Right foot. Pause. There was a time when I would have rushed to the doors with my head high and a smile that said I did not care. Now the world was a black ocean and I was learning to swim without the sun. Outside, my mother looped her arm through mine and guided me past a wall of cameras. Flashes popped even though there was nothing for me to see. Jordan Park, my attorney, kept his voice low as he walked beside us. "You bought us time," he said. "Saying the footage is fabricated forces them to open chain of custody. But it also paints a target on your back." "It was already there," I said. "It has been there since the first day of school." He did not deny it. He only said, "You were brave. Now we need proof." Proof. That was the word that had chased me from my first life into this one. Proof that I had not been the person behind the wheel. Proof that the dashcam was a lie. Proof that Lila was not a lily at all but a poison flower with silk petals and a steel stem. At home, I sat at the kitchen table and traced the grain of the wood with my fingers while the kettle clicked off. My mother set a mug in front of me. Jasmine tea. The scent rose like a memory of summer. I breathed it in and felt a steadying weight settle in my chest. "We will take care of this," she said. "Your father is calling it the contact he has. And Jordan says the judge will allow a digital forensics team to examine the dashcam card." "Good," I said. "I want the best." "You already called her," Jordan said from the doorway. "She is on the way. Dr. Maya Chen. Calm, relentless, and expensive." He made relentless sound like a blessing. In that moment it was. Maya arrived just after dusk. I heard the easy confidence in her stride, the little pause as she took in the room without meaning to, the way she set her case on the table and clicked open the metal latches. She greeted my mother and then me, and there was no pity in her voice, only focus. "I know your case," she said. "My team has handled dashcam tampering before. We will need the original card, not a copy. We will need to see the police transfer logs. And we will need a list of everyone who had access to your vehicle, garage, tools, or electronics in the last month." "I can give you a longer list than you want," I said. "Start with Ethan Clark and Lila Hart." "Done," Maya said. The next morning, the judge signed an order. The prosecution stalled, then yielded. The dashcam and its storage card were delivered to a neutral lab under court supervision. I did not see the chain cross the table. But I heard the scratch of pens as people signed for it. I heard Maya say thank you in a voice like a steady hand on a scalpel. And I heard the door close after she left with the only object that could say the thing I had been saying since the sirens. It was not me. While Maya worked, I looked backward. Memory was all I had for sight and it did not always tell the truth, but it could still point. I called the underground garage and had them pull entry logs and camera records for the night before my surgery. I asked my mother to read me every name. There were dozens. Then there was one that made my breath catch. "Rental SUV," I said. "Read the plate again." My mother did, slow. Jordan had already asked a private investigator to start a quiet search. Within a day he called back. The SUV had been rented by a shell company owned by one of the contractors who bid on city maintenance jobs. The same contractor who had donated to a charity gala run by the Hart family last spring. I sat still. In the dark behind my eyes I saw the glimmer of silk and a smile sharp enough to cut. That night, the investigator texted Jordan a second update. The garage camera had caught a woman with Lila's height and gait stepping out of the SUV wearing a scarf and a baseball cap. She had walked straight to my parking bay with the ease of someone who had rehearsed. She had carried a small hard case. She had stayed exactly 6 minutes. She had left with her hands empty. Jordan told me all of it in the slow, careful tone people use when they are trying not to break a glass already cracked. He did not need to ask if I wanted to pursue it. I did not say a word. I did not need to. Maya called the next morning. The dashcam footage was unusual. The encoding pattern was off in a way that would not be obvious to most eyes. There were repetition artifacts in the sky, compression ghosts in the reflections on the windshield, and inconsistencies in the metadata that suggested the file had been transcoded and injected back into the card. "In English," I said. "Someone took another video, altered it, and spliced it in," she said. "It is a deepfake that has been burned into the file and then written back to the card. Not impossible, but it requires intent and skill. There is also a strange mismatch in the system clock. It looks like the dashcam was synced to a phone that jumped time zones for a few minutes and then jumped back. The goal was to make the time signatures look legitimate to a casual check. Who would know how to do that? I asked. People who make money doing it, Maya said. And people who make money hiding that they pay people to do it. When I hung up, I put both hands around my mug until the heat edged into pain. The pain kept me here, in the present, instead of tumbling backward into that memory of my classmates pointing and whispering, Ethan saying I was cruel. Cruel, he had said, while swiping every card I had handed him. He called again that afternoon. He had learned that silence was as much a weapon as bile, so he tried silence first. I let it stretch until he broke. You can stop this, he said. You say you want the truth. This is the truth. You made a mistake. You panicked. We can all move on if you admit it. We, I said. What a generous pronoun. Do you think anyone will believe a blind girl over a grieving husband, he said. Over a whole city. Over the footage. I let that hang there and then asked, are you and Lila still telling people you are siblings? He flinched in the pale static on the line. I could hear it in his breath even if I could not see his face. We grew up together, he said. That is all. That is not all, I said, and then I hung up. The very next day a reporter posted photos of Ethan and Lila leaving a hotel at the coast, arms linked, faces lifted to the sun. The timestamp on the photos placed them there on the afternoon of the crash, which did not mean anything on its own. People drive to the coast after doing terrible things. People take pictures after they lie. But it seeded doubt in the one place it mattered most. The court of public opinion began to split. A few comments under the article were not about me. They were about them. That night, I received a message that did not come from a number I knew. It was not a threat. It was 4 words. Do not trust cameras. I stared into the dark, which meant I did not stare at all, and listened to the small sounds of the house settling. The next line came 5 minutes later. West Garage, top level, Wednesday, midnight. It was almost laughable how cliché it was. I was on bail and half the city wanted my head. Meeting a stranger in a garage at midnight was not in any advice manual for surviving the week. I should have ignored it. I should have deleted it. I did not. At 1:45 on Wednesday, my mother begged me not to go. Jordan said it was reckless. I told them both that caution had not saved me last time. I wore sneakers and a thin jacket and tucked my phone into my pocket with the record button already pressed. The driver we hired for court days brought the car to the west garage and parked at the top. The air up there smelled like oil and sea salt. Wind moved across the concrete with a low hum. The driver got out first and scanned the area. Then he helped me out and placed my hands on the hood so I could orient myself. Footsteps approached. Not the heavy purposeful tread of a cop or a thug, but a light skittering gait that said nerves and quick decisions. The person stopped a few feet away. You were brave to come, a woman said. Her voice was young, tight with fear and adrenaline. Brave or stupid, I said. Who are you? Grace, she said. Student reporter. I cover Harborview scandals for the campus paper that no one takes seriously until 3 months later when the city does. I know what they did to you. What do you have? I asked. She moved closer. I could smell cheap coffee and the faint ink of a printer. She pressed something into my palm. A memory card. From the garage camera, she said. The one facing your parking bay the night before your surgery. I know you already have the official copy. This is the second feed. The contractor installed it after the city refused to upgrade. He let it live because he was hoping to pitch it as a safety pilot later. No one pulled it because no one knew it existed. Except me. Why you? I asked. Because I have a friend who dates a janitor who hates his boss, she said. I almost smiled. You could have taken this to the police. I saw what the police did the night you were wheeled outside, Grace said, her voice low. I saw how fast they believed the worst version of you. I do not say you are a saint. I say the narrative was convenient. They will not examine a second feed if the first is enough to close the case. Is this enough? I asked. I think it is the thing that lets the right person find enough, she said. Then she backed up, footsteps quick, and the night swallowed her. Maya called at dawn. She had watched the new feed. It showed the woman with the scarf again, clearer this time, her face caught for an instant as she turned toward the exit. It was not a perfect shot. But it was enough for a skilled eye to cross-reference with other images. It was also enough to show what she had done. She had opened my car, removed the dashcam, attached a small device to the cable, and then reinstalled the camera with the device tucked behind the panel. The device was a hardware injector that could feed pre-written frames into the camera stream and rewrite timestamps on the fly. The woman had tested it, checked her phone, and left. So the footage is not just a deepfake file written back to the card, I said. They rigged the capture process itself. Yes, Maya said. Which explains why witnesses swear they saw your face on the dashcam screen when the car blew through lights. The device was overlaying frames in real time. It also means there is a separate source of the original pre-written video used to build the overlay. If we find that source, we can tie the alteration back to the people who commissioned it. Where do we look? I asked. Anywhere Lila stores trophies, Maya said. That answer infected my dreams. The next day I woke to the knowledge that I had to address the people who hated me the most. Not with a denial, not with a press release written by someone paid to sound human. With my own voice in a place where I could be touched, not just seen. Jordan balked when I told him. The families are raw, he said. They will not listen to you. They do not have to, I said. I have to listen to them. We arranged a meeting at a community center. The victims were 2 adults and 1 unborn child. Mr. Alvarez had lost his wife and their baby. Mrs. Kang had lost her father. They came because people always come when pain has nowhere else to go. A few reporters lingered outside because pain is a story. The room smelled like floor cleaner and old wood. My mother guided me to a chair at the front. I stood instead. I am not here to ask for forgiveness, I said. I am here to tell you I did not drive that car. I was in an operating room having my eyes removed when your lives were shattered. I am here to say I am fighting to prove that. And I am here to say I know that proof will not bring your loved ones back, and that nothing I say can make this grief smaller or cleaner or easier to hold. There was a long breath of silence. Then Mr. Alvarez said, in a voice I had last heard like thunder over my head, do you swear you were in that operating room? I swear on the last thing I see when I sleep and the first thing I feel when I wake, I said. I swear on the sound of my mother's hands when she folds the towel she uses to wipe my face. I swear on the smell of my father when he hugs me before he leaves the house. I swear on the empty dark I live in now. I swear. Something shifted then. It was not absolution, and it was not even doubt. It was space. A fraction of an inch of space in which something besides rage could breathe. After the meeting, when most people had left, Mr. Alvarez approached me. His shoes squeaked on the floor and I could hear the way he held his breath before speaking. My wife had our daughter on the phone when it happened, he said. The call did not disconnect until the car stopped. The audio saved to the cloud. I never listened to it. I could not. But my daughter finally did. She said there is music on in the background. A radio jingle. She says it is from a station that changed its ad rotation that week. She looked up the time that jingle aired that day. It does not match the time the police say the crash happened. He put a small recorder in my hand. I closed my fingers around it like a relic. Thank you, I said. Thank you for living through that twice for me. He did not answer. He only nodded, and his shoulders shook once, like a man lifting something heavy and setting it down. Maya took the audio and ran it through 2 independent labs. The jingle was unmistakable, and the station logs were clear. The ad played at 12:17 p.m. The prosecution's timeline put the crash at 11:42 a.m. based on traffic camera sync. Either the station logs were wrong, or the camera clocks were. Or someone had forced one set of times to lie. The labs also isolated a siren derivative in the background that matched a specific ambulance dispatch logged on the other side of town at 12:16 p.m., which narrowed the travel pattern of sound captured through open windows. The geometry of the city began to argue with the story that had been fed to it. Jordan filed motions. The judge agreed to an evidentiary hearing to review the new findings. The prosecutor tried to dismiss the audio as unreliable. Maya argued that clocks are only as true as the hands that set them. The judge asked for the hardware injector and the source video, as if it were simple to pluck a ghost from a wire. The prosecutor smirked and said if such a device existed, the police had not found it. Which was true. They had not found it because they had never looked behind the panel in my car where a woman with a scarf had tucked it. It took the investigator 2 hours with a flathead and a soft touch to pry open the right seam without leaving damage. He placed the device on a velvet cloth like it was a jewel. It hummed faintly when he powered it on, a hungry little sound. Maya smiled like a mathematician seeing the proof resolve. She traced the board, found the vendor ID burned into a chip, and named a black market broker who moved this class of hardware. The investigator cracked his address book. Jordan drafted a subpoena. It was messy and slow and lawful and also, finally, movement. The night before the hearing, Ethan showed up at my gate. He did not ring. He shouted. The neighbors turned on porch lights and licked their teeth at the thought of a show. "You think you can ruin me," he yelled. "You think you can drag me down because you have nothing left." My mother called the police, her voice steady. I stepped onto the front walk and stood behind the gate. The air smelled like cut grass and something sharp, maybe rain brewing. Ethan kept yelling until his throat rasped. Then he lowered his voice, which made it worse. "You are blind," he said. "You will never see the look on their faces when they stick you in a cell. You will never see me walk past you when I am free. You will never see Lila on the news when she tells the whole city how merciful she was to you." I listened. The thing about losing your sight is that you get very good at hearing the cheap tin in the liar. It sounds like a bad coin dropped on marble. It sounds like a smile that never reaches the eyes. "I do not need to see you," I said. "I have heard enough." A car turned the corner fast. Tires hissed on the curb. A door slammed. Lila called his name, breathless and sweet. "Ethan, come on," she said. "This is beneath us." He looked at her and for a second, for a thin sharp second, I felt a static in the air like a wire burning. Then he let her hook her arm through his and pull him away. I went inside. My mother pressed her forehead to mine and whispered, "Almost done. Hold on." Morning came, and with it a rain that made the streets smell clean. We took the back entrance to the courthouse. The hearing room was smaller, stripped of the theater of a full trial, but packed anyway. The judge sat like a mountain that had learned patience. Jordan laid out the sequence. The garage footage. The hardware injector. The audio jingle and the station logs. The ambulance siren and the geometry of sound. Maya explained how a device could overlay pre-written frames in real time and falsify internal clocks to match the desired timeline. The investigator testified about the rental SUV and the shell company and the contractor who danced at the Heart Charity Gala. When he said the word heart, the air changed. Not because anyone gasped, but because half the room inhaled without meaning to. The prosecutor cross-examined with cool disdain. "Was it not possible," he asked, "that the injector was installed by Miss Reed to make it look like someone else altered the footage? Was it not possible that the audio was from a recording saved days earlier? Was it not possible that the garage footage was a fake created by interested parties?" He said possible until it lost its meaning and then said it again. Then he called his own witness. A cop who had handled the dashcam card on the day it was retrieved. The cop swore the chain of custody was clean. Swore the card had gone from glove box to evidence bag to lockup to lab without hands wandering. Jordan asked one question. Who had the keys to the evidence locker that day? The cop said the name. It was a name that connected to the contractor through a cousin and a betting account. It was a name that touched donations to the Heart Gala and old photos at the coast. It was not a nail. It was a hairline crack that had been waiting for a finger. The judge did not make a ruling that day. He said he would review and reconvene in 48 hours. He said he wanted the hardware injector traced to a purchase and the garage footage authenticated by a third party. He said he wanted the station to produce their server logs for the day of the crash. He said the word truth and made it sound like a piece of furniture they would drag into the room if no one brought it willingly. We walked out past cameras that now asked softer questions. Outside the building a hand touched my sleeve. "I am sorry," Mrs. Kang said, gentle and grave. "When my father died my first shape was rage. It blinded me. I heard you today. I do not forgive. But I will listen." "Thank you," I said, because that was a gift, not a demand. At home, the house was quiet. I went to my room and closed the door and sat on the floor with my back against the bed. In the dark I saw the outline of a thing that was not a memory and not a hope. It was a plan. It had hinges and moving parts. It had a place for every piece we had gathered and one more space for the piece we had not yet found. I called Maya and asked if the injector could do more than overlay faces and alter clocks. She said yes. It could also record the signature of the phone it was paired with when the installer synced time. Even if the phone name had been wiped, the hash would remain. "Can you pull it?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "If I'm careful." She was careful. By midnight she had it. A hash that matched a device registered to a number used to confirm attendance at the Heart Gala 6 months ago. The number was in a text thread with Ethan. The name on the device contract was a cousin to the contractor. The web tightened until there was no way to breathe inside it without knowing who had spun it. I slept for the first time in weeks. Not long. Not deep. But real. When I woke, there was a final message from the unknown number that had sent me to the garage. "They are going to destroy the source video," it said. "Tonight. Old boathouse under the bridge. East side. Look for a red door with a star." I stared at the darkness until it felt like a roof instead of a sky. Then I called Jordan and the investigator. I called Maya. I called the one detective who had looked at me without a script in his eyes, Detective Calder, who had said off the record that grief can be weaponized and that Harborview had a way of polishing its villains until they gleamed. We will do this by the book, Jordan said. No heroics. No heroics, I said. Only proof. We met 1 hour before midnight. The rain had stopped and left the world rinsed and raw. The boathouse crouched under the bridge with its back to the water. The red door with the star was faded but still red. The padlock looked new. Calder cut it while his partner filmed the entire entry. Inside, the air was cold and smelled like mildew. A generator sat in the corner, a table beside it with a laptop and 3 hard drives stacked like bricks. The laptop had a cracked screen. The drives wore masking tape labels that meant nothing to anyone without the key. Maya approached like a surgeon. Gloves. Photos. Evidence bags. Everything by the book, as Jordan had said. And still the door slammed behind us. Footsteps. Voices. Lila, soft and bright like a light over a trap. You never did know when to walk away, she said. You could have been a queen, Nora. You chose to be a martyr. I turned toward her voice. My heart was not fast. It was slow and heavy like a drum before battle. Queens wear crowns that other people hold over their heads, I said. Martyrs do not get to speak. I am neither. I am a woman who can hear footsteps and count seconds and tell the truth without looking at a mirror. Ethan said something rude about blind girls and pity. Calder told him to be quiet. His partner read them their rights as if it were a bedtime story. Lila laughed once and it sounded like a glass slipping off a table and breaking on tile. Maya lifted one of the drives and held it like an egg. This is it, she said. The source. The same lane markings, the same sequence of traffic lights, the same sky artifacts baked in. It was recorded 2 weeks before the crash on a quiet morning with a stand and wearing a silicone mask. From here they built the overlay. From here they wrote the reality you sold. No heroics, Jordan whispered. We have what we came for. We walk out. We walked out. The night did not cheer. The city did not redeem itself in a flourish of violins. The bridge did not turn to gold. But the ground under my feet felt steady in a way it had not in months. Proof. Not a theory, not a suspicion. A drive with the lie still warm inside it. Back at the house, I sat again at the kitchen table while the kettle clicked off. My mother placed a mug in front of me. The steam rose like a blessing. I wrapped my hands around the heat and felt the future push against the present like a door that finally wants to open. Tomorrow, Jordan said, we move to suppress the doctored footage and introduce the source video. The judge will not be able to ignore it. We will ask for charges against you to be dropped and for a grand jury to consider charges against them. Maya added, and I will testify to every frame. I will make the language simple enough that no one can hide behind ignorance. I nodded, even though I did not need to. The decision had already been made the moment I woke up in this life and realized I could change the script. I stood and felt the table under my palm, the tile under my shoes, the air in my lungs. The black ocean of my world did not recede. It did not need to. I had learned to swim. One more chapter, I told myself. One more climb. Then I would stand not as the rich girl who went too fast or the blind girl who begged for mercy, but as the woman who refused to let a lie grow roots in her name. The courthouse steps groaned under the weight of people. Reporters packed shoulder to shoulder, their microphones extended like a forest of spears. Flashbulbs cracked the air, though I saw none of it. All I knew was the pulse of sound, the way questions rushed like waves and then broke against the silence my lawyer and I carried with us. Inside, the air was cooler, heavier. The trial that had begun as a certainty, a spoiled heiress punished for the lives she took, was now a battlefield. The judge sat at the front like a stone figure carved to endure storms. On the left, the prosecution with their neat stacks of paper and sharpened fury. On the right, us. A blind woman who had been branded a killer, and the few who still believed in truth. The bailiff called the court to order. Jordan rose. His voice was steady, but beneath it I could hear the urgency of a man who knew history was being written in real time. Your Honor, the defense moves to admit Exhibit 47, he said. A hard drive recovered from a property linked to the Hart family and authenticated by 2 independent labs. It contains the raw source video used to fabricate the dashcam footage presented by the prosecution. The room erupted. Shouts, gasps, the scrape of chairs. The judge slammed his gavel until silence returned. Proceed, he said. Maya took the stand. I listened to her explain, calm and relentless, how the footage from my dashcam had been overlaid in real time with pre-recorded images from that drive. How a hardware injector installed in my car had fed the lie to every camera and every witness. How metadata, clock drift, and audio mismatches proved the frame had been bent until it broke. Can you say with certainty, Jordan asked, that the footage used to condemn my client was not authentic? Yes, Maya replied without hesitation. It was falsified. The prosecution leapt to their feet, their voices sharp. Objection, speculation. But the judge cut them down with a single word, overruled. The next witness was Detective Calder. He described the raid on the boathouse, the recovery of the drives, the connection to the contractor who had worked with the Heart Charity Gala. He detailed the chain of custody with meticulous care, daring the prosecution to find a crack. When he finished, Jordan called the last witness, me. A hush settled as I was led to the stand. My cane clicked against the wood, my hand brushed the rail, and I sat. Miss Reed, Jordan said, you have been accused of causing the deaths of 3 people. You have heard the lies and seen your world collapse. What do you want this court to know? I turned my head toward the sound of the crowd, my empty eyes hidden behind dark glasses. My voice trembled at first, then steadied. I want them to know I was in an operating room, blindfolded with gauze, while my car was used as a weapon. I want them to know that my so-called friends borrowed my life and twisted it until it strangled me. I want them to know that grief is real, but so is betrayal. And I want them to know I will not carry the weight of a lie that was never mine. Silence. Then a voice from the gallery broke through. It was Mr. Alvarez, the man who had once tried to strangle me outside the hospital. His voice shook. She is telling the truth, he said. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge demanded order, but the shift was already there, heavy and irreversible. Closing arguments burned like torches. The prosecution clung to the footage, to the convenience of a narrative already carved into stone. Accidents happen, they said. Guilt must have a face, and Nora Reed's is the face we saw. Then Jordan stood. His words cut sharper than any knife. You saw what you were meant to see. You were shown a mask and told it was a mirror. But evidence does not bend forever. It snaps. And when it snaps, the truth bleeds through. My client is not perfect. She is not gentle. But she is innocent. And no amount of false footage will change that. The jury deliberated for 2 days. 2 days of waiting in silence, of hearing my mother pray in the kitchen, of Maya muttering over files, of Jordan pacing until the carpet wore thin. On the 3rd morning, the bell rang. We filed back into the courtroom. My heart hammered so loud it drowned every other sound. The foreman spoke. On the charge of vehicular manslaughter, we find the defendant not guilty. The words washed over me like light I could no longer see but still felt. My knees trembled. My mother's hand gripped mine, wet with tears. Jordan exhaled for the first time in months. But the foreman was not done. We also recommend that charges be pursued against Ethan Clark and Lila Hart for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and falsification of evidence. The courtroom exploded. Reporters shouted. Lila cried out, her voice shrill, calling me a liar even as officers moved toward her. Ethan cursed, his mask finally cracking, venom spilling for everyone to see. The gavel pounded. The judge's voice thundered above the chaos. Bailiffs, take them into custody pending investigation. And just like that, the stage shifted. The spotlight that had roasted me alive now turned on them. In the weeks that followed, the truth unraveled in layers. The contractor confessed under pressure. Payment trails linked back to Lila's family accounts. Ethan's phone records tied him to coordination on the day of the crash. What had once seemed airtight against me now became a noose around their necks. I remained quiet. I gave no interviews. The world that had spat on me now begged for my words, but I let silence speak louder. I had nothing left to prove. 3 months later, I received the call from the hospital. Miss Reed, we have a match. A donor. The surgery was long. When I opened my eyes, light returned, not perfect, not as it once had been, but real. The first thing I saw was my mother's face, lined with worry and joy. You are back, she whispered. I smiled through tears. I was never gone. On the day Ethan and Lila were sentenced, I stood at the back of the courtroom. I did not testify. I did not need to. The evidence crushed them without my voice. They begged, they lied, they wept. But the world had turned. No one believed their tears anymore. When the gavel fell, I turned and walked out into the sun. My cane tapped the ground, steady and strong. I thought of the words Ethan had once screamed at me, you will die alone. I let out a soft laugh. Alone? No. I had my family. I had my name. I had my sight, in more ways than one. And as I stepped into the light of a world reborn, I knew I had rewritten my fate. Not a victim. Not a villain. But the author of my own truth.